Welcome to the Massive Loop SDK tutorial series. Today we're going to go over SDK tutorial number 1 and show you how easy it is to build your first simple world and upload it to the metaverse. This tutorial only takes about 14 minutes and there's no programming required in the first 2 tutorials. You can actually build a pretty amazing world without any programming if you like, and you can even drag and drop dynamic pre-scripted assets into your scene that have been built by others in the Massive Loop community. But naturally, you're going to unlock the most functionality by using the scripting interface and scripting language, which will allow you to build whatever you want. Which brings me to my next slide. Your Massive Loop world can be whatever you want. It could be a multiplayer game, a VR training experience, a social hub, or maybe a virtual bar. It could be a VR storefront, or if you're an artist, you could use it to create a gallery for your 2D or 3D art. Or if you're a professional designer, you could use it to demonstrate your CAD or architectural walkthroughs. It can really be anything you imagine. And all the worlds that you create are multi-platform, multiplayer, and shareable from the beginning. So it can be a really quick way to build a multiplayer VR experience, much quicker than if you had to start from scratch and deal with all the multiplayer networking issues and other complexities of it. So the steps to creating a world are pretty simple. First, we're going to create an account on massiveloop.com. Then we're going to allocate a simple world once we're logged in. And then we're going to download the SDK tools that you need to build a world. And then we're going to even include some pre-built, pre-scripted assets that will make your scene more dynamic. And then ultimately, we're going to send your world to the metaverse where you can share it with others. So let's go ahead and get started. So in order to create our new world, first we need an account at massiveloop.com. I already have an account, so I'm just going to log into it. And we'll notice when we log in, we get a left menu related to some features that we can use, and then also a right menu related to the user profile. I'm just going to go to Worlds, and then My Worlds, and click Create. We're going to give this world a name. We'll call it Simple World. A category, Game. A minimum age, let's say 16. Max players, this is max concurrent players, 12. And then a description. We can enter some tags for our world, and this is basically to help with search, and they can be anything that you want. So I'm going to say simple, PvP, and game. And then I'm going to click submit. And now we have a world allocated in our account. So I'm going to click on the allocated world and then go to edit. And we have a few other options that we can enter here. I'm going to select a thumbnail for the world. And then we have the ability to delete the world, but we're not going to do that right now. We're just going to go ahead and save the changes. So that's the first thing that we need to do. The second thing that we need to do is to download the necessary software to build our world. So to do that, we're going to go to the left menu and find the downloads page. And there are 3 softwares that we need to download. The first one is the Metaverse browser. The Metaverse browser is the VR client that everyone logs into in order to visit worlds in the Metaverse. The next thing that we need to do is download the Massive Loop Unity SDK, which is located here. And the third thing that we need to do is download the proper version of Unity that works with this version of the SDK. You'll also see that we have some other links to other developer tools that can help with syntax checking and other things that will make the development process easier, but we don't need to do that today. So I'm just going to go ahead and download these 3 softwares. Okay, since Unity is a pretty large package, I went ahead and paused the video and downloaded it in the other softwares, and here they are. So first we have the Massive Loop Metaverse browser, then we have the Massive Loop SDK Unity package, and then Unity itself here. So the next thing we need to do is install Unity, and I'm going to go ahead and pause the video while it installs. Now that Unity is installed, I'm going to launch Unity Hub and go ahead and create a new project. This is a 3D project. I'm going to call it Simple World 1 and click Create. All right, now that Unity has finished loading our project, we can go ahead and start loading assets into our scene in order to create our world. Before I do that, I'm going to rename the default scene Simple World. And I'm going to create a few folders, a models folder, and also a materials folder. And I have a few models that I would like to include in the scene. So I have a park, I'm going to load, and the corresponding textures for the park. And I also have a simple park bench. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and load the park into the scene. And then just for simplicity, I'm going to position it at the origin. And I'm going to drag a park bench in there as well. Rotate it. And then maybe make a few copies by pressing Control D, Control D, Control D. All right, and then the next thing I'm going to do is include a floor, and I'm going to just use a Unity primitive cube object. And we're going to make this 50 by 50. And I'm just going to position it just below the park. That's good. And I'm going to create a material called floor. And also rename this cube as floor. And just go ahead and make that floor a little transparent so that I don't have to see it in my scene. So the next thing that we need to do is import the Massive Loop SDK. And in order to do that, we go to the assets folder and right click and select import package, custom package. Here it is. And we just select import all to load everything. So after the SDK is installed, you should see this ML SDK folder, and you should also see a Massive Loop menu item at the top menu bar. And I'm going to go ahead and open up the ML SDK folder, and I'm going to grab one of the dynamic pre-scripted assets, in this case just a simple bouncing ball that already includes scripting. I'm going to position it over here. All right. And in the future, whenever we finish our marketplace, then you should be able to drag items that were created by other content creators as well on the platform. Okay, so now we have our scene, which is great, but in order to make it into a Massive Loop world, we need to do 4 other items. The first thing that we need to do is we need to delete the main camera because the Massive Loop client already has a camera. The next thing that we need to do is we need to add a world descriptor. Every world must have one world descriptor. To do that, right-click in the hierarchy, find this new Massive Loop menu, and select World Descriptor. Now the third thing that we need to do is add a spawn point for our users to spawn at, and you'll find that under the Massive Loop menu item too. So just go to Massive Loop, spawn point, and you'll see it represented as a disk for now, as a cylinder here. So I'm just going to position it here. You can always turn off the mesh if you don't want it to show. Now every world has to have a spawn point, and in order to bind that spawn point, we go to the world descriptor, and we will go ahead and enter 1 here to create at least 1 spawn point. You can have multiple spawn points and choose how users will spawn into them. And I'm going to drag that spawn point into the world descriptor location here. And now we have our spawn points. And that's it. Now your world is complete and will run in the metaverse. But in order to upload it to the metaverse, we'll need to go to the Massive Loop control panel, and we need to log in using the exact same credentials that we created at massiveloop.com. When we do, we can select the build menu, and here we'll see some build options. We also notice if we change something in the scene, we might get a warning. In this case, we got a warning that we have an unsaved scene, so I'm just going to go ahead and save the scene again, and then recheck. and it's good to go. Now, if we like, we can change the world that we're uploading to by selecting Change World. In our case, we only allocated the one simple world online, and so there's only one world to choose from. Once we've selected our world, we can go ahead and select Build and Upload, and the world will be compiled and then sent to the metaverse. It can take a second, but it really depends on the size of the world that you're building. And now the world is successfully uploaded to Massive Loop. Now to visit the world that we just uploaded, we go back to the software we downloaded, and we have the Massive Loop browser. And this will launch us into the VR client. All right, so now we're in the Metaverse browser, our VR client, and we can go ahead and log in using the same credentials. I'm going to go ahead and do that. You can actually interact with this keyboard a couple of ways. You can click the keys, you can touch them directly, or you can even use your own computer keyboard if you like. I'm going to pause the video and log in. Once you log in, you'll spawn into the default home world where everyone spawns initially. And in order to get to our world that we created, I'm going to go ahead and select World, All Worlds, and then find the world we created, Simple World 1. Select Join, and here we are in the world we created. I can jump around our park. Now this was a really simple example. In the next tutorial number 2, we're going to cover all of the basic default out-of-the-box components that you can use from Unity in your worlds without any scripting. And then starting in tutorial 3, we're going to discuss scripting, which ultimately you'll need if you're going to create very complex worlds, that even multiplayer games. I also wanted to mention that the best place to find out what new features are available is to join the Massive Loop Discord. That's really the best place to get help with scripting, because we're usually updating the SDK every few weeks. And so there's a chance that if there's something that you want to do, it's already been added to the SDK. So if you join the Discord, you can jump into one of the developer channels and ask questions, and I'm sure you'll get an answer. Have fun experimenting and building your world, and I will catch you in the next tutorial.